Welcome to Feeding the Family. This is Glenn Knutson, and today we're going to talk about feeding your faith. And the title of this is From Empty to Worship. From Empty to Worship. I don't know what kind of week that you've had. I know that a week ago we were trying to figure something out. And over the last week, it has affected us deeply. I'm an educator, so most of the time I force education to be the priority over life. But frankly, life became the priority over education. And so for me, this was a very difficult week. From an educator standpoint, I worked a lot. I felt like I was recreating things and doing things new. But also from a priority standpoint, from a life standpoint, my family was affected, whether it was blood or whether it was not. My family was affected by the things that we have experienced this week. And so I came to Friday night, 9 o'clock, and I'm empty. I have nothing to give. Some would say, well, you need to go to sleep. Sleep will fill you up and you'll be fine. Yeah, but I was empty, and I turned on the TV, and a couple of movies interested my way, liking British detectives, and that interested me. But frankly, I had my earphones on and my phone in front of me, and for the sake of discussion, my phone was baptized. And so in that sense, I kind of just let my baptized phone and my baptized mind take over. And so it progressed basically in three parts. Number one, it was in apologetics. And apologetics is basically answering the tough questions, answering the big questions. I'm a thinker, and so continuously I am thinking about subjects, and I have questions, and this is interesting, and this is interesting. And so probably for the first 15, 20, 25 minutes, I just found videos on YouTube that the subjects were interesting to me. It was, yes, Christianized, but they were very interesting to me. So what I did is I just let my apologetic mind, just trying to get the answers, I let that take over. After about a half an hour, I was ready to move on. And I moved on, and I'll call it feeding the soul. Feeding the soul. And I needed to feed the soul. I needed to be fed. And so I went to YouTube, and I found an old Bible teacher. His name was Ray Van Loan, I think it is. I'll if you really want to, I can get you his. But he did an old series back in the 80s and 90s called That the World May Know. And he was in the desert. He was doing a video for a series of lessons in the desert. And I listened to him, one of the things that he said was that Israel was in the desert, and of course, you're coming out of Egypt, and God brings His people out of the desert, but He doesn't bring them into Disneyland, which is interesting. Why not just your people have faced 400 years of slavery? Why not bring them into Disneyland? But He doesn't do that. Well, it's like 50 miles or 50 days away to take them directly to the to Israel. So why put them in the desert for 40 years? It would seem to me that what does the desert represent? Well, to me, the desert represents loneliness. It represents this feeling that you're there. There's nothing for you. There's nothing there for you. And you're just having a really hard time dealing with the loneliness. Then I would also say that the desert has to do with just craziness. This is not how we normally operate. This is not the way we do things. We have a consistent schedule. We've made the best life we can, and we just kind of do this. And so one of the main things he said was, do you understand that God is there in your desert? God is there in your desert. And I have experienced desert feelings this week. I've experienced that life has been crazy and trying to make sense of it. I have experienced loneliness in one sense, not that people, but just that trying to figure this out, trying to make sure I'm doing what I can for, but having this kind of sense of loneliness. And then he said, but the Lord is there. The Lord comes to your desert. He does not leave you in your desert. He comes to your desert. And so I needed that. Family, the priorities of life came over. I had family, both blood and not, that had great things happen to them this week. And so I felt that I needed my soul revived. What happens after soul revision? Well, what happens is worship. And so I let my baptized YouTube go on a worship binge and found many great artists. I went from, I don't know, some Newsboys. I went through a lot of it. One of the things I finished, Jason Gray, I went through. One of the videos I stopped with almost 2 to 3 hours later was Nicole C. Morin, and her song was called My Redeemer. And she asked a question. How do you know? Well, she says, my Redeemer lives. How do you know that? My Redeemer lives. And so I must tell you that in this time of looking at feeding our faith, I think that our baptized phone works. I think baptized YouTube works, where we go from empty to worship. And that's what I'm recommending to you. When things just are not making sense, when all of a sudden family stuff is getting overwhelming and you're going, what do I do now? I am empty. I'm kind of tired, but I'm empty. Can I be filled? And the answer is yes. And so I would suggest a baptized phone. And that works. Well, this is Feeding the Family, and this is Glenn Knutson. Have a great day.